Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another Music at Midday concert being produced by St Paul's Cathedral, London, Ontario. A short organ recital today coming from my home here in Stratford on my digital make-in organ. I'm continuing to respond to requests from members of the congregation and beyond for certain pieces of music and music by certain composers, so quite a mixture of pieces in today's concert. I begin with an item by American composer David German called A Festive Trumpet Tune. David German was born in 1954 and he's currently organist at Christ Covenant Presbyterian Church in Pineville, North Carolina. And David certainly knows how to turn a good tune. This particular piece was written in 1990 for David's wedding. And so I begin today's programme with A Festive Trumpet Tune by David German. The next item on the programme is a piece by another living composer, this time from England, Paul Edwards, who was born back in 1955. He was a choir boy at St Paul's Cathedral, and even right back then he was writing music. He went on to Peterborough Cathedral as a lay clerk and sang there in the cathedral choir, and he certainly had a lifetime immersed in the church and its music. He's actually written over 450 compositions, many hymn tunes, church anthems, and also a very beautiful Christmas carol, which was chosen in the year 2000 to be performed by the choir of King's College Chapel, Cambridge, in their annual carol service, which was broadcast. I've elected today to play one of his organ pieces that's on the more gentle side, very reflective. Its title, Lullaby, uses the lovely string and flute stops of the organ, and you'll hear the clarinet stop as well. So the next item on the programme, the Lullaby by English composer Paul Edwards. next piece on the programme by a Canadian composer, Gerald Bales, Petite Suite for the organ. Gerald lived right across the last century. He was born in Toronto in 1919 and was a wonderful, wonderful teacher, organist, composer, choir trainer, great sense of humour. He spent most of his life in Toronto, but moved around a little bit. He was the organist at Redeemer Cathedral in Calgary and then St. Mark's, Minneapolis in the United States. But he returned to Canada in 1971 to take up a position at Ottawa University, where he taught until 1984. He then retired to London, and that's where many of us organists down in this part of southwestern Ontario really got to know Gerald well. He was a dear friend, a wonderful teacher, and a great inspiration to many of us. His teachers, Herbert Fricker and Healy Whelan, back in his days at the Royal Conservatory in Toronto, must have had a wonderful influence on him as well. So today I'm playing a piece that Gerald wrote in 1965, Petite Suite, 3 short movements, introduction, intermezzo and finale. And as the timeline would suggest, 1965, fairly contemporary in vein in terms of the harmonies as well, but using the full range of the organ. So I begin with the introduction from Petite Suite by Gerald Bales. The organ contains certainly many different sounds, and over the centuries, composers have written pieces specially to demonstrate and highlight the different colours available on the organ. The next item on the programme is by Canadian composer William France. Born in 1912, died in 1985. He was actually an organist here in Stratford at Knox Presbyterian Church, and then he moved to Ottawa. He taught there at the university and knew Gerald Bales well. He's written a lot of music both for choirs, for the organ, and vocal music, choral music, and instrumental. And this next piece is called Oboe Tune by William France. The next piece is by the French organist composer Jean Longley, who was born in 1907, died in 1991, and all of his life was spent in Paris as an organist, composer, and teacher. He attended the conservatory. He was blind by the age of 2 as a cause of glaucoma, and he studied with Tournemire and Dupré and went on to be a wonderful improviser and a very prolific composer. Almost 254 items in the catalogue today from the pen of Jean Longley. He became, in 1945, the titulaire organist at Saint-Clotilde in Paris, a very eminent position, succeeding César Franck and Charles Tournemire, and he held that position for 42 years until he was 80, and he retired then and spent the rest of his life in Paris. He was a wonderful organist and gave over 300 recitals here in North America. A very dear man, and I did have the opportunity to meet him once when I helped him with a recital he came to give at St. Paul's Cathedral back in the late 70s. Now the miniature Nazard by Jean Longley, and in the right hand you'll hear the lovely flute stop with what we call a mutation, a stop playing at a harmonic of a 12th up above the melody, creates a wonderful singing quality, but you'll hear that sound all the way through in the right hand of this very haunting little miniature by Jean Longley, Nazard from his Suite Française. final piece on today's organ recital, we go to Wales. Welsh composer William Mathias wrote this final piece called Postlude. He was born in 1934 in Carmarthenshire and started piano lessons at age 3, later attending the Royal Academy of Music, where he had composition lessons from Lennox Berkeley. His output is substantial in terms of his compositions: 3 symphonies, 3 piano concertos, an opera, many pieces for the church, and quite a few organ works also, which are both fresh and original. Most famous for perhaps his anthem that he wrote for the marriage of Prince Charles to Lady Diana Spencer in 1981, Let the People Praise Thee, O God. That particular service was broadcast to over 1 billion people worldwide, so Mathias certainly became a household name in English church music circles overnight after that ceremony. But in the mid-60s, William Mathias was commissioned by Oxford University Press to write a piece for a new organ album that they wished to print called Postludes, and this last piece on today's programme is what he wrote. It's very fresh and original, like a march, has a lovely tune in the right hand, uses the full range of the organ, finishing with all the stops drawn at the end. So I conclude today's recital with Postlude by William Mathias.